Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We're coming back. Back to where it all began. I don't know what that means. Just getting ready to go back to the show. Is all this moon plays us out here? Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Velvet Moon is by Frogs Are Alive, by the way. Frogs Are Alive. It's all one word. FROGSRALIVE. Google it. Or DuckDuckGo it. Whew. All right. Well, I got my microphone in a new setup here. Let's see how I felt like the way that it was just totally blocking the whole of my face, and my whole interchange of facial dimensions was significantly handicapped by the perturbance of data that was presented in front of it, which is mainly the microphone. So on that note, let's get ready and get right to talking about what we're going to talk about at the beginning of every show, and that is where all this stuff come from. So this time we're going to do it a little bit differently. We're going to start here with this is where it starts with these three sites. First site here is Newsalite. This is the glitz, the odd, the under, the radar, the hard to believe news at a glance. These are just aggregated links that, well, you can see from the titles here. Wild animals keep appearing in neighborhoods. Major cities see a decrease in crime. This Nigerian inventor, blah 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 blah. So then we got that, and then we get from all of the stuff that I collect from all of these sites. I look at roughly about 1,200 or so news links that I go through in each site that I have gathered from various methods and have a database that I create. And then the best of, I guess you could say that, yes, it is. The best of for each site gets on here, and they fit into various categories. But only 10 from Newsalite goes on, and only 10 from Obamacare.tv goes on. And Obamacare.tv is free market social engineering for the masses. And you can have titles like IRS to launch. These are just news aggregate links. That's all they are. IRS to launch, get my payment web application for people to get stimulus money quicker. ExxonMobil test new technology. Well, blah, 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 blah. You get the point. So then you get to Pioneering News. Now, Pioneering News is tech, science, underground news links. This is where I get a lot of my tech and science. But I do end up getting a lot of tech and science stuff from Obamacare and Newsalite as well. And then the top 12 gets the top 32. The top 32 are boiled down to the 14 stories that I choose to sing my news song with for you today. And that's what we're going to be doing. And you're not even correct. There we go. Let's slide you down. We're going to have to make some adjustments on the fly here because I made some adjustments in between that had some emergency adjustments that had to be made. And we're going to now get ready for the show, ladies and gentlemen. So for some of you, there are conditions and apprehensions and circumstances which have, in my capacity to understand the universe, has motivated me to create this segment just for you. And you know who you are.
Warning, the material you're about to be listening to is part of the minds of individuals who are limited in their capacity to understand the actual reality of power around them, just as you and everyone else alive on the island. What you're about to hear are opinions, suppositions, like gospel or scientific proofs, not infallible certainties. Brace yourself for incoming opinions that could confirm or deny your preferential view of the reality of power. Brace yourself for fallible material, fallible opinions, and values reflected, but nonetheless variably firmly held. We do not apologize to anyone we met. We do not apologize for daring to express our views and impressions upon what we believe is and what we hope to see. We will keep talking so long as we are able.
And now, Frico attempts to talk about the news without freaking out.
Woo-wee. That's the plan, ladies and gentlemen. That is the plan as I creep on down into view. Look at that man. Look at that sexy man. Wow! Holy moly. Just going to say, I don't know who that guy is. But I'm keeping him away from my wife, I tell you that. I'm keeping that guy away from my wife. I ain't even got a chance. Anyway, I may be delusional at this point of the day, which is 12:30 plus, what time is it here? It's 12:39 p.m. Don't forget to tip your Frico, because that's what you do before you provide them any valuable content. You ask for money up front, because that's how Frico rolls. Go to frico.com/tip and leave me a tip. It'll be a PayPal thing. Send me money on PayPal. No big deal. Patent pirates colonize the mind in the war for AIIP. That is the last that was the last posted excerpt from Frico Talks the News. And when you come to our Frico.com site, that's what will appear. The latest excerpt from the show will post up there. And then we get to the actual show right here. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Frico Talks the News for Tuesday, April 14th, 2020. This episode is called, should I call them episodes? I'm going to call them episodes. Why not? This episode is called How to Burn Off the Gold Dust from the Mountaintop Retreats. This is FQTN Tuesday, April 14th. I already read that. I didn't read it again. Okay, I'll remember that next time, folks. This is the first time I'm trying. I decided in the end I'm going to, originally I was just saying Frico Talks News a Day, and I was like, no, I'm going to make my title for the shows. I'm going to do that again. So I do that. So this is what we're going to get on this episode. Chairman Z racks up the most blockchain patents. That's our top headline. Coronaville scares away the advertisers for reasons. That's our feature story. Police Department Purge Siren triggers Crowley, Louisiana. That's our top focus story. They died alone. Invasion of the Mask. A Coronaville love story. Colored circa 2020. That's our news poem of the day. High-tech UK firm loses execs over new Chinese owners. That's our top brief of the day. And a Coronaville Jubilee. How to burn off the gold dust from the mountaintop retreats. That's our dialectical, and that's where we get the title for our episode today. And so without many further ado, let us get to Frico Talk Headlines. Let's get ready to record this segment. And these are the segments, by the way, that just the recorded version without all this stuff. You get that. You can just get the story. See, I'm there for people that like the discourse and the meandering. You can watch the show live, and for people that want to hurt my feelings and pretend that they don't love it when they really do, you can get the extracted version, the version that's going to begin in. Let me get this lined up here. And we're ready to start recording. This is Talk Headlines for Frico Talks the News on Tuesday, April 14th, 2020. Our top headline for today is Chairman Z racks up the most blockchain patents from the block crypto. Chinese tech giant Tencent. I didn't mean to do that. Chinese tech giant. I'm turning something and then I forget. Oh no, that's going to turn that, and then that's going to turn the camera, and then can't do that. Okay, Chairman Z racks up the most blockchain patents. This is live. We do it live. From the block crypto, Chinese tech giants Tencent, Alibaba filed for the most blockchain patents last year. And here's an excerpt from the story. Chinese tech giants Tencent and Alibaba filed the most blockchain patents applications in 2019, according to research conducted by the block's Stephen Zhang. Tencent and its affiliates filed for $71 billion blockchain. 71 billion? 718. That would be. I was a little stunned there for a second. Like, that can't be right. Is that a 71B? As in no, 718 blockchain patents out of a total of over 5,800. While that would have tipped me off if I would have. Yes. While Alibaba Group filed 470. Together, they accounted for over 20% of the total. Tencent and Alibaba were followed by WeBank, Royce Technologies, and Ant Financial in that particular order, and all these three companies are also based in China. Overall, about 63% of firms with over 20 blockchain patents filings are based in China. The U.S. follows next. It is worth noting that while 2019 saw over 5,800 patent applications, only 3% of them were granted in the same year. This is getting to be like such a significant part of our show, the whole IP thing. What we're talking about here once again. What do we got with the IPs? This is the IP wars. The patent wars, the IP wars, all of that. It's a race to colonize the mind. And I'm not faulting China as a nation state for doing what it's doing. And I know, I see. It was fine for China to rip everybody off, and now it's going to get in the patent game. Yeah, that's how it works. That's how it works in nation statism. This is what you're seeing. You're expecting some sort of moral consistency that aligns with the whatever nation states proclaim, but you're I tell my friends, and they think I'm nuts, and maybe I am. That's for you to decide, the listener, for you to decide. But you don't try to understand a human being by trying to understanding their moral codes that they espouse. You try to understand them as you begin to figure out the things that they do. What do they do passionately? What do they do consistently? These are the things that tell more about who they really are than anything else. And in those doings, you'll see patterns emerge that will tell you, not with certainty, but with a high degree of certainty, what their primary, what do you want to call it, the primary driver. I call it, kind of euphemistically, I call it a God seed, whatever their God seed is, whatever it is that makes them come as close to feeling like they're their own Godhead, so to speak. Whatever it is that puts them in that zone, that really tells you who and what they are. And then once you understand that, you can really even begin to understand how they selectively use this morality or this construct or this value or whatever it is, that how they switch off and on, and how you can understand how it is that the coalition that has predominantly represented the Democrat Party could suddenly shift from being the party of free speech to the party of hate speech, and how the Republicans, who were the party of they were not the party of free speech, they were party of patriotic speech and unpatriotic speech and vulgar speech and obscene speech. So they had their particular version of what you see today in terms of SJW authoritarianism. Not SJWism, it's SJW authoritarianism. It's like not all conservatism is authoritarian. Well, maybe it is, I don't know. But within the nation-state parameters, we are talking about within nation-state parameters, so let's be sure. For some people, including myself, I would argue that all of it is authoritarian, but there are degrees. There are degrees. So within the nation-state degreeage of authoritarian, there are lesser and more. So this is fundamentally what it's about. It's about having the ability to control the things that make humans look awesome. And it might sound weird, but it really is. It's like the sumptuary laws. So this is in the mid-1300s. What had happened after their plagues was a lot more people died, like proportionally. It was 20%, in some places 50%, 80%, and it really hit everybody. It hit the aristocracy hard. And there was all this empty space and all this opportunity and all this high demand for people that knew how to actually grow things that people lived off of. People that knew how the blood and bone reality of the world, if you will. And those folks suddenly became high in demand, and they were making some bank, and they were owning land, and stuff was happening, and they were starting to, you know what? They were starting to own and possess the same kind of awesome that the high class, the ones with all the power, have. And they were starting to figure out that all those trappings that give the high power, all those wonderful things with such high craft, you just see the power in the things that they wear. And for individuals to have the power, to have that same power in the things that they wear, that's what we're talking about. In here, with IP, it's the same thing. I know it sounds weird, but why is YouTube was YouTube such a threat to the kings and queens and vassals and the ones in on the grand show? The ones that previous to this time were the only ones who could possess the fineries of our day. And the fineries of our day are not our clothes. The fineries of our day, well, they are to some degree, but the fineries of our day that shows the true level of craft and mastery over the universe, the power, in large part, it's the craft of media. It's being able to present high quality, high level visual and audio presentations in a very slick, very produced way that demonstrates I'm sorry, hold on one second. I got a little bit of a I don't want to say I have a little bit of a dry cough. But that's what that was. But I do anyway, I kind of suffer from a condition which I regularly suffer from dry coughs. It's the acid reflux stuff. So nobody You need not be concerned. Everything's fine. We're rocking through. All right. So, YouTube, initially, the content quality in and of itself was so disparately separated. It was YouTube initial videos were crude and weird for the most part, and then software got better and production got better, and all of a sudden there started to be an opportunity for human beings, just schlomos, just by themselves with no vast massive amounts of corporate behind them. If they had charisma and they had some sort of unique knowledge, if they were interesting for whatever reason, they could realistically make a fairly decent living, and they don't even have to be the huge people. There are people out here, they have 10,000 subscribers, and they're living off of YouTube. They're making a living off of YouTube. So it's very, very real and very possible. And what's happening is the people that are closest to the blood and bone of us, the us that creates the content that now is in a lot of ways pretty commensurate in quality with what the high production people only used to be able to produce. These us's, to be able to wear the fineries of the day and look just as professional, just as polished, just as powerful, that's fundamentally what they have to end. Because when you look like that, and I'm not saying I do or this show does, but I'm saying when you do, when YouTubers achieve that is invalidating the only real legitimacy of power that the citadelians in America have, and that is their success. And their success is not manifest just in the billions. It's manifest in the power that the billions enables them to demonstrate, which is so vastly different, that makes what we can produce, what we can wear, look crude in comparison. Well, we can now wear things that maybe they're not quite as good, but they're pretty comparable. If nothing else, the gap is significantly lowered to the point that your fineries don't impress us all that much anymore. We're not as dazzled by your charming display of high quality that we can't master. So that's why this is a problem. That's why I can't really, well, I'm an American, so I just wish the whole IP was dead, so it's hard for me to, there's no good guys in this. Not the Americans, not the Chinese, none. There's no good guys. Anyone participating in this, they're all doing the same thing. It matters little to me if my master is American or Chinese. I'd rather have no master. That's the problem. Rallying for prisoners in the time of Coronaville. From Democracy Now! Protesters in Philadelphia, New Jersey demand release of nonviolent and immigration prisoners. And here's an excerpt. In Philadelphia, at least 100 protesters shut down traffic and parked their cars in the middle of city streets surrounding City Hall and other government buildings to demand the city release nonviolent prisoners and immigrant prisoners in light of the coronavirus crisis. In New Jersey, families with loved ones imprisoned at the Bergen County Jail held a demonstration Friday outside the jail to demand Governor Phil Murphy free all immigrants in detention. Well, I wouldn't support freeing all immigrants in detention, but if they haven't committed any crime other than being, and I'm assuming they're talking about the quote, I don't like saying that. I'll say the phrase, though, illegal immigrant. I don't want to be ever afraid of phrases in and of themselves, but not a phrase that I like, because I don't really like calling human beings illegal, and that just, nope, I don't like it. No, to call these are basically folks, they're non-citizens that are not licensed to be here. That's what they are. They're non-citizens that are not licensed to be here, but that doesn't speak about who they are as human beings. And the illegal alien, that does more than just connote what they are. It says that they are Well, I mean, they're aliens and they're illegal. They're why. You know, I've heard these stories here about the scenarios because New York State said that they, or was it New York City? I think it was just New York City, one of these places. It doesn't matter. One of them, whoever did it, that quote unquote illegal aliens. These are non-citizens not licensed to be here. That these non-citizens not licensed to be here would get coronavirus help. And somebody, and I'm not going to say who it was, somebody was pointing out a scenario where you could imagine Americans standing in line, and ahead of them was a quote-unquote illegal alien, and what would happen. And this is why you shouldn't call people illegal alien, because this person talking about this person was not condoning this in any way, shape, or form, but this person was, I guess you could say, empathetic with the American, and I would not be empathetic with the American. What are you going to do? Do you think that you're more or less of a human than them? It's like in times like where something like, you know, if to the degree to which Coronaville turns out to be what it was threatened to be, and I believe, I'm still thinking it's going to be about 50% what they said it was, which is, by the way, bad enough, like, it's no joke. And I don't want anyone to ever get the impression that I am for everybody just going back to their lives, filling up football stadiums, that I'm not for some degrees of shutdowning and significant alterations in the way we're doing things right now. I am just not for all of a sudden we just knee-jerk shut everything down with no consideration as to the what is going to cost more lives, this or that. It's suddenly magically Coronaville lives matter more than all the other lives that you may kill with the actions, and that you need not have threatened and harmed so many lives in protecting us from Coronaville. This is my point. And here we are, we're driving people to frenzies thinking this is the end of the world and we're all going to die, and that's when you get desperations where suddenly, because people call these particular human beings non-citizens, not licensed to be here, they call them illegal aliens. You've established in your mind over and over and over again, the government's reinforced it, everyone around you is a reinforcement, these are subhuman, so when you see them and they're ahead of you, you're not gonna go after the Americans that are ahead of you, but somehow you have some sort of special right to go after that human being. That is not consensuality. I'm not holding you to that standard, but I'm just saying, for me, that's why I don't countenance that actions, because it doesn't align with my preference. This is not an appeal to morality. It does not align with my preference to see a consensual world emerge. That's not how it's done. So I wouldn't I wouldn't paint these folks that are in these prisons as rainbows and lollipops, and we should just let them all out, because I think some of them probably should be deported, because if they've violated our trust over here in a significant way, basically in a violent way, in which I'm not talking about people who've been arrested because they have drugs. I'm talking about people who've been arrested because they hurt someone directly, like assault or whatever, the fraud, theft, things like that. But nothing over having drugs or even selling drugs, not even that. But anyway, if you've done violent things, you should be deported. If not, we got to figure out what to do with the people that are here and try to get them integrated into our world in a way that doesn't give any one faction too much power, that will turn these folks into scapegoats for everyone, and it'll be bad for them in the end. It'll be bad. Everybody will end up vilifying and hating these folks, and it won't be good for them. And in the end, they'll probably go back to wherever they came from and say, you know, America sucks. And I don't want them to leave. I think we need the folks that are here, the ones that are being tracked down. I think most of the ones that are being tracked down, we need. Maybe some of them should be tracked down, but probably 95+% of them we should probably keep and figure out, like, if they want to stay, if they want to become part of our world. And let's all become part of our world. Let's not stay separated. Let's find our common ground. And to me, I keep saying in this show, it's the Bill of Rights. That's the simple Bill of Rights. If I could somehow show we the poors why it is, then unless you want to grow up and be a killer, you should live in a land that for however you come to it, you find yourself fundamentally not even liking anything that violates the Bill of Rights. Like it's like that, like it's so deep in you, you don't even think about it. Like that's what we want to see in the land. You have that land, you will have a land in which power will be distributed quite democratically. It will be. It'll be a reflection of that and a perpetuation of it as well. Cook your bacon while you charge your phone and save the planet. See? There's love in the world. This Nigerian inventor created a smokeless stove that cooks food and charges phones. This is from Truth Theory. And here's an excerpt. 26-year-old Nigerian inventor Max Chinna has developed a smokeless stove that can charge cell phones while it cooks. Chinna says he plans to send 1,000 of these stoves to farmers in rural Kenya who have limited access to electricity. Chinna formed a company called Tarawak with his business partner Adiga and has hopes to step up production to distribute the devices globally. He came up with the idea when thinking of different ways that he could improve the world with an invention, and this was one of the best ideas that he came up with. I love that writing. That's from Truth Theory. Now here's a cool thing. I like Truth Theory for a while now, and I like a couple of the writers. I don't know them, but I think about a week or two ago, one of the articles, it did not make it on the show, nor did I found another one this week. It didn't make it on, but it did make it into. It's on the Freako site somewhere, both of them, the links to them at least. And that is John Vibes. I don't know John Vibes personally, but he's a fairly regular interactive type of Facebook friends I've had through the years. So we both have been on the same show, Freedom Fiends. I was sort of a co-host, but not really, never quite me. I was on 4 episodes of Freedom Fiends. John had been on. He was on a lot more. He was one of the regular co-hosts. So, but he writes for Truth Theory, and that makes sense. And I love what he's writing now. I love what Truth Theory is doing. You really should. I highly recommend that site. I can't recommend that site enough. And with that, that's the end of this segment. I'll give a little Truth Theory shout out there. They're not paying me. Nobody. I don't take sponsorships. I never will. My monetization model is you go to freako.com/tip and you contribute to my PayPal. That's it. That's my That's it. That's all I really want to do. Keeping it simple. That's it. That's all I'm doing. So you get Freako's Daily Freaks. Just enter your email and click subscribe. Well, you can go to freako.com/daily. That's not quite up and running yet, but it will be. So this was the 4 o'clock show if you're watching on YouTube. And that means at 5 o'clock, you can get the talk feature. And the talk feature is going to be Coronaville scares away the advertisers for reasons. That's the talk feature coming up. All right. Alrighty then. So that's, oh man, never mind. Hold on. I gotta cut off that music. I don't want to, like I said, I don't like to leave a room with the light on, so to speak. So we're going to get out of that and go to our close up here and get a little bit ready here. You know, I really want to have this mint, and I'm like, you can't have it. You can't have it, buddy. But I can have a little drink of this. And this is Tropicana. They're not a sponsor. Tropicana grapefruit juice. I love it. And I just sip on it a little time. And it really, for some reason, it keeps that throat. Oh, dude, you know what? Look at that. That's a nice picture. That is the best picture you could see. Look at that guy. Hi there. Hi there. Hi there. Wow. All right. Let's go to our feature segment. Let's get our feature segment ready. Are we about right there? Do we want to be there? Yeah. That looks good. That's fine. Everybody's fine. Everybody's happy. Let's get ready for the talk feature. That means I'm going to record. So let's get set, record. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the talk feature for Frico Talks the News on Tuesday, April 14th, 2020. Our talk feature today is Coronaville scares away the advertisers for reasons. You know, I should have put a little comma there. That's bad. You're a bad boy. You know what? I did have a... Never mind. No, I know what happened. Never mind. Apparently, advertisers have decided that somehow having their products placed during Coronaville coverage by the news and whatnots will somehow damage their brand. Advertisers, that is, the megacorps, largely, have decided that we Americans are not sophisticated enough to separate the company in the ad from the Coronaville coverage. Okay. Now, some of this is also, by the way, and I probably should put this in an article, some of this is not just because of that, but that is a significant part. And it's also because some companies are, listen, we are not open right now, so no ads. So there's some of that as well. The reaction by these companies is causing a real strain across the board for our media outlets, as yet another faction of our society decides to shut down because the advertisers are not paying the bills like they were pre-Coronaville. Media outlets are having to make tough decisions, and some will probably fold. And only time will tell if the hysteria around Coronaville will be justified by what we discover Coronaville actually is. Is it a killer that justified this quick level of complete and total shutdown, or was it I mean it's going to be a killer no matter what, but what level of killer it's already a killer, obviously, because people have died, but what level of killer is it? I don't think that it's going to turn out to be as high as this level of shutdown will ultimately show. From Japan today, advertisers shun coronavirus coverage, hastening news media battle for survival. From Rupert Murdoch's News UK to McClatchy's chain of local newspaper across the United States, news publishers are attracting a record number of readers as people in lockdown seek information about the coronavirus pandemic. Yet advertising revenue has plummeted for many publishers as companies slash marketing budgets and prove reluctant to buy ads against coronavirus coverage for fear of tarnishing their brand. Forecast for global advertising growth this year has been revised down by $20 billion since March 12th. Just since March 12th. According to market research firm eMarketer, it estimated ad spending growth of just 8.4% in China, where the outbreak began, the slowest since 2011. Total local advertising in the United States could decline by up to 30% this year, or $38 billion. That is a lot of out of work. A lot of out of work. And just think about it in this perspective. There are human beings that stroll this planet right now, right here in America, that own more than $38 billion, meaning they own more than the total value of local advertising in the entire United States. Just to put that in perspective, think about how many jobs are employed by that $38 billion. Let's just do a little artistry here, you know? Let's get out of that music here just for this because reasons. You know what? It's all about because reasons. So we're going to have 38 billion people, right? Let's see if we can get this up to here. Let's see. All right, we got 38 billion people. 38. There's a million. There's 100,000. And there's 100. 38 billion. We're gonna divide that by, let's say 50,000. $50,000, because that's a good mean for American salaries in this field. Advertising and marketing. How many people's salaries for that? 50,000 a year. Oh, that. See, that's 760,000 people. That's what we're talking about here, folks. And there are people that are walking around that can command more power. One individual can command more power, more influence upon this land than all 760,000 of those human beings can combined. Anybody think that that's a problem? Anybody think that that is what you meant by the free market? Is that the free market? Is that the free market? Because it seems to me that's proven to be an absolute utter cluster, so to speak. An utter and complete cluster. So I guess we're going to have a short feature. I think that's all I really needed to say on that. Yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. Don't forget to tip your Frico. Go to frico.com/tip. Gotta tip your Frico. And this is the 5 o'clock show on YouTube. Don't forget to tune in for the 6 o'clock show. And the 6 o'clock show is going to be the Talk Focus. And the top story of the top Talk Focus is going to be Police Department Purge, Siren triggers Crowley, Louisiana. That's what you have to look forward to at 6 o'clock. Wow. All right. I did it, folks. I got through a segment in pretty short order. Congratulations. Come on, everybody out there. You know what? Type F in the... No, don't type F in the... Type... just type congrats in the chat if you acknowledge that I've done good things just now in what I did. And that was a 6-minute segment for the feature. Dude, I did that. I don't necessarily want or need to make long shows, but I also don't mind when I do. I don't really care. It is what it is, man. It is what it is. Let's get ready to do the next segment here, though. Let's get on back down here. Where are we at? Oh, we're a little bit too far. Almost went too far ahead of myself. All right, we got this lined up. Here we go. All right, getting ready to record in 3, 2. Oh, hold on, not yet. There we go. And 3, 2, 1. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Before we begin, let's correct my image, because this is what you do, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Talk Focus, or Frico Talks the News for Tuesday, April 14th, 2020. And our top Talk Focus for this show is Police Department Purge, Siren triggers Crowley, Louisiana. It is a beautiful thing to behold, tone deafness from our betters. The super smart police department of Crowley, Louisiana had no idea that the sirens they used to announce curfew, which is creepy enough as it is the same one used in the movie The Purge, a movie about people having one night of the year to commit crimes, full-on murders, rapes, deaths, mayhems, crimes. Good move, gang. Here's from the Shade Room, by the way. Shade Room, good site. Highly recommend. Fun site. Louisiana Police Department apologizes for using siren from The Purge to signal curfew. Excerpt. Residents in the Louisiana town of Crowley were quite disturbed the other night when they heard the siren from the Purge movie being blasted through the Acadia Parish. Of course, this wasn't actually the go-ahead for people to wreak havoc, but an old military alarm that their local police department chose to use to signal that the city's 9 p.m. coronavirus-related curfew was to begin. And now it seems police are apologizing for the bad idea after a bunch of residents immediately filed complaints against the warning sound. I love this. I mean, obviously I know what they meant, but I just love this. This is just float this in your head, ladies and gentlemen. Immediately filed complaints against the warning sound. Whoa. Oh, did you hear that? What was that? That was a warning sound. A warning sound? We're going to file a complaint against that warning sound. Where is it? They're filing a complaint. Who's going to serve it? I love that. Thank you for that moment. Thank you for the warning sound, for serving the warning. Listen, if you actually fill out the warrant, I will volunteer to serve the warning sound, the papers, to let it know that it must immediately cease and desist because it's been warned. I love that. Thank you for writing it that way. It was so much more interesting than if you actually... Well, I would have written it that way. This is how I would write it, because I know the reader needs a little bit of joy. At first, they'll be like, hey, wait. Oh, I get it. Yeah, but still. You know what I mean? That's what you do when you have a high level of craft. That's how you write right there. According to ABC News affiliate KATC. According to ABC News affiliate KATC. KATC. By the way, if you're listening ABC News affiliate and you want to use me as a voiceover, I will whore for voice. I will whore my voice. ABC News affiliate KATC. Ladies and gentlemen, it's ABC. Come on, I can do it. Come on. Type KATC in the chat if you want me to be the new voice of ABC News affiliate. ABC News affiliate KATC. If you want that to be the voice, if you want to hear that every morning or whenever, all throughout the day, type that. KATC. Do that. Magnets will unleash speed in electric power. A breakthrough in magnets could lead to rapid delivery of electricity at levels once not even deemed possible. Yes, I totally laid it on thick for that. I loved writing that. It is as if a cap of limitation had been ripped off the top of the electric speed container, and now the potentials are beyond our understanding, because no one imagined we might break the barriers we previously thought we were operating within. And this is from SciTech Daily. Giant leap in magnet research leading to faster electronics. Come on. Which headline would you prefer? Magnets will unleash speed and electric power, or giant leap in magnet research? Come on. Here's the excerpt. Researchers pushing the limits of magnets as a means to create faster electronics published their proof of concept findings on April 10, 2020 in the journal Science. The University of Central Florida is the lead university in the multidisciplinary University Research Initiative, MURI, project, which is funded by a $7.5 million grant. Sir, $7.5 million isn't really all that much. Oh, I'm sorry. $1 billion! No, just a $7.5 million grant, which really isn't all that much, like I said. From the Department of Defense, the team exploring methods for creating machines that operate at trillions of cycles per second includes the University of California, Santa Cruz and Riverside, Ohio State University, Oakland University, Michigan, and New York University, among others. The laboratory of Enrique de Barco, Ph.D., and collaborators at the University of California, the National High Magnetic Field Laboratory, the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, and the Chinese Northeastern University are successfully overcoming that natural resistance using electrical currents passed through anti-ferromagnets, just like iron magnets. On the nanoscale, the results are groundbreaking because they represent proof of concept showing that anti-ferromagnetic devices can operate on the terahertz level, or calculations completed in a trillionth of a second. Not only does that hold potential for everything from guidance systems to communications, but it brings devices closer to mimicking the way the brain operates. Again, on your wrist, your own personal IP buddy that you will have created from scratch. like it'll be a tradition when a child is born. The child will be given maybe one AI, maybe a family of AIs, maybe one or maybe as many as 12 AIs, maybe 12 that are all assigned different. Maybe you'll consider it safer to design AIs that are intended to be more narrowly focused, and maybe a couple of AIs that do the synthesizing with all the others. I don't know how you would do it, but either way, they'd all be on your wrist. They'd all be on your wrist. Super duper, quadrolooper. Yep, right there on your wrist. Your AI buddies. Talk to them. They can talk to other AIs when you let them, and let other people let them. That type of environment empowers individuals. It democratizes the technology. It democratizes the well, it's an intellectual multiplier. It's an intellectual multiplier. Your AIs are going to make sure nobody can BS you. And the thing is, everybody will be on the same playing field. Everybody will have the same high level of excellence. Everybody will be able to walk in the highest level of craft throughout the land whenever they want. And that'll be the end, because the only power legitimacy that Citadelians essentially have. Now, I'm not talking about people that... There are some people, for various reasons, who've made billions of dollars just because they've sold like $1 billion worth of digital stuff that really it was all them. I don't know. But on the main, most people that have that much wealth, they've done so at tremendous cost to others. And I would say that it is not in their interest, because of all the people that they've probably ticked off, and probably rightly so. They don't really want to be in a position where suddenly everybody looks at them and says, hey, wait, success in and of itself is not really a legitimacy for the type of power that you possess. You have more power than governments do. In point of fact, they have more power than governments do. When they can actually decide which governments they censor on their social media platforms and which they don't, yeah, they have more power than governments do. And yet we want to give them these godlike powers over defining the narrative of our lives, because they're corporations and not states. They're one and the same. And they don't want us to have the access to the glitter that they have access to any more than the state does. And in that they're in accord. And again, as I'll say throughout the show, again and again, they are the same family members. How about that? They're the same family members. They're cousins and uncles and third cousins, and they're all related in one way, shape, or form. And some new blood comes in, but that's this promise here. This is wonderful. If it's not all going to be created, and then instantly the minds will be harvested and colonized and converted into IP metaphorical gold bars that'll be stacked away in storehouses surrounded by lots and lots of guns and missiles and drones and nerve gas and whatever else it takes to assure that the IP does not get free. So it's a great story. It's a great promise, great tech. But again, if you're going to lock up the IPs, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad for we the poors. So if you are one of the poors, and most likely if you're worth less than $1 billion, you are the poors. But so if you are one of the poors, you might want to consider maybe not supporting IP as much as you think you should. And with that, we're going to end this segment. This is the 6 o'clock segment, and that means that we are at the halfway point of the show. Now, for those of you watching on YouTube, you be sure that you go over to dlive.tv/Freako, FREEQO, and give us a follow, because you could be watching the whole live show where I do magic tricks between segments. I don't do magic tricks, but I pretend I do. I do magic tricks between segments. So be sure you go over to dlive.tv because you could be watching the live version of the show in its entirety. Kid you not. Free of charge because Frico's free. Frico's free. But he does ask if you like what he does that you go and tip him at frico.com/tip. He does ask that because he's a whore. He is ultimately a whore. Although he'll do this for free as long as he can. I like speaking about Frico in the third person every once in a while because I like to remind myself that I'm not really Frico, but I actually am. So it's difficult sometimes. So on the other side, though, we're going to get the news poem, which the title of our news poem for today is They Died Alone, Invasion of the Masks, a Coronaville Love Story, colored circa 2020. That's what we'll get on the other side. And that, for the YouTube audience, that will be 7 o'clock. 7 p.m. is when the news poem is posted. Whoops, I did it again. I left the room without turning the light off. I gotta turn the light off. There we go, turn the light off. All right, so the news poem is on the other side, and I get to take a break, and that's good because I've got bacular issues, dude. I got bacular issues. You know they're gonna come out with Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures or something. Bill and Ted are getting back together. I can't wait. I want to see it. When it comes out on Netflix. Totally. When I'm bored and I got nothing else to do. Totally want to see it. I do love 1 and 2 of Bill and Ted. I'm thinking that number 3 is not, or number, whatever it is. I don't know. How many Bill and Teds were ultimately made? Did they make? No, I don't know. I'm not up on my Bill and Tedage. I'm not a Bill and Tedder. I'm a casual, I guess. I'm a casual in a lot of ways. I'm even a casual when it comes to Star Wars. Although, no, I'm not a casual anymore. I'm like a, no. You know, a brief commentary before I go to break here on Star Wars. I don't really think it's really bothersome if people want to turn Star Wars to reflect the values that they think the world should have. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It makes for bad art when you do that in general, but you can sometimes pull it off. They didn't. They just created like bad. I'm a Christian, so all due respect to my Christian brothers and sisters and all y'all that like these Christian movies, 99.999% of them are crap because they're just the same type of, the whole story is center. You don't let our art organically flow. You just put it in this moralistic box and it shows. You don't create good art. That's the bottom line. So that's why I'm out of Star Wars. It's just bad art. I don't really care about whether it's this or that or whatever cultural thing it is. I don't really care. I don't consider, by the way, people putting SJW values in movies to be SJW authoritarianism, just so you know. Not at all. SJW authoritarianism. Well, anyway, I'll make that note. Now I'm getting ready to go to the break. And on the other side, I promise you, on the other side, we'll get to that news poem, and it'll probably change your lives for the better. You probably, what little of it you have left, because I don't think any of you is going to live longer than probably maximum 100 years. So you don't have a lot of time left. 100 years. Not a lot of time, friends. So I'm just saying, even though you only have a short time to live, at most 100 years, it's still going to change what little of your life you have left. You're welcome. And now we leave.
Love overwhelms me. Love overwhelms me. Love Love overwhelmed me.
Yeah. Love overwhelms me. Yep. I would say that love is not something. Actually, you know what? I take that back. You know what? Love does overwhelm me. By the way, that was also Frogs Are Alive. FROGSRALIVE, all lowercase. Frogs Are Alive. So, yeah, love, yeah, I would have to say I've experienced that in my life. Really only in the last few years. I think as my family, by my perception, it could all be a lie. Everything could always all be a lie. But I don't really think it is. But by my perception, my family has come into harmony, I'd say, in the last, especially the last 2 years, especially. And we all have pretty solid relationships. My wife, my daughter, myself, and experienced just a tremendous, rich life in the 15 years that the three of us have shared together so far. So I guess I have experienced that. In a way, it's really helped. Even before Coronaville, I always said when you're going to enter into dark valleys, and so because of that, you always try to build your batteries. Wait that power's going to go out sometimes. You got to build your batteries, and you build your batteries by being aware of the awesome circumstance that you're experiencing, the joy you're experiencing, and kind of inventorying it and keeping it viscerally real within you so that you can reproduce essentially the power that type of positive interaction produces in humans to keep you. And it's been tremendous for me. I've been using my batteries, and I'm so glad I listened to my own advice. There you go. That doesn't sound arrogant. That doesn't sound arrogant at all. But we're going to get to the show here. These are the little things I do, in the live stream. That way, this is why would we watch the live stream? We'll just watch the excerpt. We don't need to watch no live stream. You know why you don't watch? Because you missed this solid gold stuff right here. Objectively speaking, I looked into it. Scientist consensus, 98% of scientists agree, and the 2% scientists, come on, they vote Republican. Kidding me?
Warning, the material you're about to be listening to is part of the minds of individuals who are limited in their capacity to understand the actual reality of power around them, just as you and everyone else alive learned young. What you're about to hear are opinions, suppositions, like gospel or scientific truths, not infallible certainties. Brace yourself for incoming opinions that could confirm or deny your preferential view of the reality of power. Brace yourself for fallible material, fallible opinions, and values reflected, but nonetheless variably firmly held. We do not apologize to anyone in FM. We do not apologize for daring to express our views and impressions of what we believe is and what we hope to see. We will keep talking so long as we are able.
And now, Frico attempts to talk about the news without freaking out.
Oh, I don't even know. That is the plan. I don't even know if I should move it down. I should move it down. Should move it down. Should move. No, don't. No, maybe. I'm just wondering how I want to view this. I like changing things up and being weird. So, you know what? Let's just do it like this for the shot. There we go. I like this. A little disjointed. We're not going to be here long anyway. This is just a little precursor to the main event as we get ready to hit in the news poem. So we're back on Frico Talks the News for Tuesday, April 14th, 2020. And we're going to get right to our next segment, which is our news poem. Let's flip the switch in the gears and get ready. What do you think of that floor, by the way, in the background? You should see the room that I actually painted this like years ago, maybe 16 years ago. Had to be, because this was before. No, never mind. It was about 10 years ago. Wow. But I kind of did this kind of Crayola motif in the room, and I love it. And at the floor, it's kind of got that. Well, anyway. It's not really Crayola, but it's kind of Crayola-ish motif. I should show it to you guys sometime. Maybe I will. But that's the floor in the background, and I love my floor. I love what I did. So much fun. Here's the news poem segment. Let's get ready for that. All right. So on this shot, we're like, no, we don't want that. We don't want that hole. I love the floor, but I don't want it in this shot. There we go. We're gonna put me here for this shot, and I really like seeing the tie and all that. I like the visuals because you guys aren't, why wear this if it's all hidden, right? Like, this is my uniform. This is the Frico uniform. This is what he wears when he goes to work. When I put this on, I'm like, all right, it's Frico's time. I let Frico in, and then Frico does his thing. And then every once in a while, Frico lets me poke out, like right now. It's like talking common sense into this show, and then that's it. Then it's done. Then it's back to Frico land. So that's where we're going to go now. Let me get ready to record this news poem. Let's get her. By the way, just anybody listening, I know that Frico is a figment of my imagination. All right. Although you guys all know I'm not. I am Frico. So don't listen to them. They're all crazy. All right, here's the news poem for Frico Talks the News on Tuesday, April 14th, 2020. Our news poem of the day is They Died Alone. Invasion of the Masks, a Coronaville love story, circa 2020. The truth and the fiction of Coronaville will be mysteries wrapped in mysteries, wrapped in conspiracies for decades, maybe even a couple of centuries to come. Who did what? Why? And what did it do to save lives? What did it do to cost lives? The debates, or the effort to dissect the truth, to become the contextual facts, I'm using a lot of air quotes in this whole section here, that support your faction's vehicle of power, will be fierce and long-lasting. The psychological damage of Coronaville will be immeasurable alone. How do we track just what damage has been done to so many through this alone? Damage that might best be highlighted in the instance of losing a loved one and not being able to say goodbye. The fear of Coronaville, justified or not, is keeping families away from their dying family members. I thought about this almost as soon as it became apparent we would not avoid the hit. But too many of us are still not, prepared for all of the cost, the ramifications of the decisions we have made to stand down so decisively, without much consideration for the full measure of cost of life in the overall. So many of these families must now come to terms with losing loved ones, most of which the family members assumed would come back, and not having been able to say goodbye. Many couples of 50 plus years, sometimes merely rooms away, unable to be there when the other is ready to die because of our hammer nail approach to managing coronavirus. And as usual, I could say a lot more, but I won't, because I just want to keep this lean and to the news poem focus. So let's do that. Well, news first poem follows. From China Post. Dying alone. Coronaville keeps family from loved ones at end. Excerpt. Now notice this is China Post, so this is Chinese propaganda, so remember that. They want to stir the hornet's nest. So, I mean, I don't need China Post to stir my hornet's nest, but just remember you kind of have to have that guardedness whenever you see this stuff. The virus is so contagious that healthcare facilities aren't letting spouses, sons, and daughters is it so contagious? I mean, it is highly contagious, don't get me wrong, but is it so contagious? The problem is not that family members are in proximity to one another. The problem is when family members are in proximity to one another, it is really difficult for us to really shield ourselves from one another. That's the problem. But in controlled settings, it is not unreasonable for family members to be able to have some degree of physical interaction with their family members that doesn't involve them putting anyone fundamentally at risk. The virus is so contagious that healthcare facilities aren't letting spouses, sons, and daughters gather around the dying for fear of spreading the infection. So family members are bidding tortuous goodbyes as best they can, often with the help of hospital workers. A New York physician posted on social media about holding a cell phone on speaker mode beside a hospital bed so a man could say a final prayer for his 100-year-old mother, a Jewish woman with numbers tattooed on her arm. Okay. A mark of a Holocaust survivor. Wow. They picked that one. This is important. This is the China Post. So I'll just let that one float out there. In New Orleans, a woman used a FaceTime call to say goodbye to her husband in another part of the nursing home where they were separated because of the illness. In Birmingham, nurse Shelley Roberts held a cell phone encased in plastic bag as a host of relatives sang Amazing Grace and prayed for a woman dying of the virus. See, all these are fine, and like why you start with? I mean, remember why this? Why do you start with this story? This is a 100-year-old woman. A 100-year-old woman. And then you're gonna pull out the Holocaust survivor card. And by the way, I believe the Holocaust is real. I'm not trying to do the math or whatever, the 6 million thing. I'm not in that world, not in that camp. I'm just saying, why does the China Post put that in? They don't do anything by accident, I can assure you that. It's meant. It's meant it's meant as much to send signals to the left as it is to incite the right. It's kind of like a jab in the eye, so that the right will be even more incentivized. I would think maybe this is what it's after, to consider behaving in the shutdown. Well, just that, to consider behaving in the shutdown, to try to encourage them to offer more chaos into the universe. This is a Molotov cocktail is what is thrown in there. This is not by without design. So I don't have an issue with in and of itself in a void them talking about this poor woman. My heart goes out to her. I don't care if you are 100 years old. I don't want you to die, and I want people to live as long as they can. So if her life was, dare I say it, cut short, maybe without Coronaville, could she have lived another 5-10 years? If so, could those have been wonderful and rich? Who might say I want to take that away from a human being? I don't think that just because he's 100 that we pass off her death, but that's an interesting first choice, and I think that's why it's designed. It's designed basically to get the right to say, look, why the Jew thing? Why the Jew thing? Yeah. Yeah, see, that's my pause here. Not that they use the Jew thing in and of itself, but that, no, I know what they're doing. Well, I think they do. This is just my analysis. This is how you analyze propaganda. Try to figure out what it is they're trying to do with it, and then that tells you what they're really after. In this case, I would say they're counting on the right not behaving themselves much longer. They're trying to agitate them there. So that's my theory. But these other, all in the main, all of this is horrible. This is terrible, terrible, tragic. That so many. I thought about this. I wrote a poem called "The Virus is a Light," and in the poem, I forget the exact line, but I talked about them not being able to mourn our dead. I knew it right away, and that's the ultimate tragedy. That's so many wounds that will not be healed. You no idea, like the rippling effects that have already been set in place that are going to fundamentally define human history for at least the next 100 years. This one event will fundamentally change the way that all of humanity thinks of the world as a whole. And those ripple effects, something will emerge or things will emerge, and that will be settled no later than the next 5 years. It's going to be a lot of upheavals, but a lot of opportunities too. And the ultimate battle is over the IP, is over being able to have human beings at the smallest scale levels to be able to address this threat as it came in. If we had competent human beings with all of us having our own degrees of experts at our disposal, we'd all be able to figure out pretty quickly, pretty organically, what we needed to do to tampen down the threat of this as much as possible in a much more fluid way that would have cost the least amount of life, both Coronaville lives and, I guess you could say, the collateral damage of Coronaville, the collateral damage lives and the Coronaville lives. I guess that's how you can separate them. And who knows if you'll never have an honest ledger for that. You'll never have an honest ledger, probably for at least 10, maybe 10 years from now. There will finally be a space 10 years from now where somebody will have the capacity to be able to put out the full real story. So we had about 10 years to wait to figure out what really happened, probably. So here's a news poem. They died alone. Invasion of the Masks, a Coronaville love story. Colored circa 2020. I ask you, the air. The stench of the assumed phlegm hiding in the fissures and the matrix of the pallor of the overcast pre-thunderstorm scene. I stood there with my basket, filled with a quart of milk and 10 cans of noodle soup. I watched the shrieks of, "Mask! Mask! You're not wearing a mask!" And I relived my favorite cinematic scene in all of human history. I stood there like a freaking ape of a man, opening my maw like a black hole consuming its own fear. I stood there like a freaking ape. I dragged my knuckles across the floor, but washed my hands as soon as I got home. Virus be gone! Gone! I rattled in my bones and encumbered a queer notion I felt the tremors of. And just like that. Last week, stood there in my naked, right after the shower, steamed, redded up. I told myself I was thinner. I was strong. I was going to be fine. I died alone. The rumor is the metaphor is the claim to truth the experts use to diagram the motion of the air. But all they have are machines. They became the cost of living, after all. No? They. Somehow the indifference to the machinations of children on thrones of gold dust is no longer an option when bread is lined up for the empty space and people are lined up for the bread lost in space. The perfection, the cost of dying alone? We're dying alone, no? I stood there in awe of my own mouth, though I did not possess it. I calmed myself, settled, retreated into the innocuous air. Before the virus, before the scent shifted to remote shots of unblemished and uninteresting jewels that once shone before. I shut my mouth when I slammed the door. On that note, on that thought. No more. I stood there in awe and let the machine fetch the load that uttered out of the air. Non-complier! Just as my hero did, Donald Sutherland, at the end of the invasion of the body snatchers. Redux. Invasion of the Masks, a Coronaville love story, colored circa 2020. All right, that wave away was not for the live audience. That was only for the lamers, the lamos who only watch the excerpts. I'm not judging. I'm just saying, why aren't you watching the whole show? Because the whole show is where it's at. If you didn't watch the whole show, you're just watching the segments, the excerpts. Look at this. You see this right here? Right here. Watch this. Magic, baby. Magic. I'm not going to tell you how I did it either. I don't even reveal that for the live stream. You missed the magic show. Missed it. I'm sorry. And I'm not going to repeat it. I know you folks, some of you might have actually missed the actual magic trick. You're probably going to have to rewind, cut this up, slow it down, and then you'll figure out what happened. And you'll be like, whoa, how did he do this? Hey, when you find out what I did, comment down below. I want to know because it's freaking magic is what it is. We're going into the talk briefs, so let's get to the talk briefs here. Talk briefing. We're getting to the talk briefs now. I'm going to get set to record the talk briefs because that's what you do. You know, I do not like that you are up here, so could you not be here for a second? Could I move you for a second? Yeah, I'll just move you over here for a little bit. Okay. Something was in my way, folks, okay? So, you know what else is in my way? My own mind. I have to adjust you. I think this is just going to be an ongoing struggle that he has to endure for the rest of his life. Dealing with the video. In this case, I know what I did. It's my fault, but I don't care. It was worth it. It was worth it. I made a late game decision. I was like, wait a second, I didn't think of this. Well, this is going to screw everything up. You're going to deal with it. We're going to do this, son. We're going to make this happen. Because, you know, the people that are watching if I say one more time, by the way, that's the last time I could say it for the rest of the show. The people that are watching the YouTube versions, just the excerpt versions of the show, what they're seeing essentially is no screw-ups, because I don't make any screw-ups when I actually start recording ever. I'm going to do that on this recording now, aren't I? I shouldn't even do this. I should stop doing this. I should really. That's just stinking thinking, Freako. Come on, Freako. You're freaking in. Nobody's here to see you freak in. We're here to see you freak out, not freak in. I refuse to freak in. By the way, I was acting. It was all acting. Let's get ready for the next segment, our briefs. And we're lined up here, so let's get ready to rumble. I got to scratch my head. All right, here we go. Welcome to the Talk Briefs. This is Freako Talks the News for Tuesday, April 14th, 2020. Our top brief of the show is high-tech UK firm loses execs over new Chinese owners. From TechNote. Imagination Technologies execs quit over Chinese takeover. Excerpt. Two executives at Imagination Technologies, a UK semiconductor design and manufacturing firm, have quit their positions following a postponed boardroom takeover from Chinese investors. Sky News reported, citing people familiar with the matter. Why it matters. The semiconductor firm is one of the UK's most prolific tech assets with over 30 years' worth of patents. There you go. There you go. It's all about that. That's why companies buy companies these days. They don't even care about the infrastructure. They just care about the patents. The colonization of the mind. You're seeing the problem here yet, folks? Are you seeing what happens as you allow the extension of the quote-unquote logic of patent law to extend itself, and how it gets increasingly held in the hands of the very few? And that's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. Remember that figure that I showed you. I want to get back to that figure. Remember this figure. And if you're watching this excerpt, you should watch the whole show. $38 billion. That's how much. That's the ad revenue that will be lost in the U.S. projected from the coronaviruses. $38 billion. That means if a human being made $50,000 a year, that's 760,000 human beings that are going to be without $50,000 a year, roughly speaking, with the loss of that revenue. And there are human beings that possess more wealth than that. And even if they don't possess the wealth directly, because of the power that they have and the influence they have over others, their de facto access to wealth far exceeds that. Single individuals versus 760,000 human beings. That's not democratic. That's not representational. That's not Bill of Rights. That's not rule of law. That's something else. That's not right. That is a market totalitarianism is what it is. I think we got ourselves a new term here, folks. Maybe it's not a new term, but whatever. It is for me. New term. Market totalitarianism. It's kind of what we're talking about. If that's capitalism, that's just as bad as socialism. Because socialism, whenever you marry a state to socialism, it's always going to turn into a cluster bluster. It's going to turn into totalitarian absurdities, and that's what's going to happen with this. If this is what capitalism is, this is what you get. You capitalists are the biggest proponents of the whole IPs, because the whole idea of property is so sacred. All of human life should be defined by property. That's where so many capitalists are rooted. Now, I'm not going to have an intellectual argument with capitalists about property, one way or another. At least I could in some context, but in general, when I meet them, I'm much more interested in. I don't want to know anything about your ideologies in general. I want to know, who would you kill, who would you lift up, who are your heroes, who are your villains, and what level do you justify using coercive action against others, and who are the others that you would justify that for. And then that'll tell me far more about you than anything else you say. I'll be able to figure out so much more about you. Like, that's the key. Know who people love and hate, and you know everything you need to know about them. It'll unfold from there, because that is the reflection of their true reality of power that they reflect through what their actual preferences are, or their core preference, what I like to call the God seed. You can call it your core driver, but that's what tells you what they're in for, what factions they represent, and then everything else makes sense. And then their inconsistencies that everybody's baffled by no longer seem confusing to you, because you understand what the real core drivers are. Now, this is all just theory, by the way, Freako theory. That's why we want to have those little things up there. I throw out my ideas, no matter how strange and weird they are, and I leave it for my massive audience, nobody's watching, to decide whether there is some gold to the nugget, or whether the nugget is filled with some sort of proverbial, let's just say, some detritus from a solid type of factoring that comes out in some sort of tubular manner. Poop. All right, now which one of these are we gonna read here? Let's see. Not the universe. A light-driven pump. That's kind of interesting. Airline. Oh, you know what? Let me at least read the headlines for you. I've got to remember to do that. New observations show that the universe might not be expanding at the same rate in all directions from universe today. Okay. A light-driven proton pump in distant relative. Now, that's hard to understand, but I'll read this last paragraph here. The race is on to investigate these small but significant organisms. I mentioned who it's from. It's phys.org. The race is on to investigate these small but significant organisms. Associate Professor Kaiki Inoue from the Institute for Solid-State Physics at the University of Tokyo, Professor Hideki Kandori from Nagoya Institute of Technology, and their team chose to study a feature of Asgard Archaea that, although not unique to them, is especially interesting in their case, and that is light-sensitive or photoreceptive proteins called rhodopsins. The organisms live at the bottom of the ocean and lakes, so it's surprising they need any kind of sensitivity to light. There you go. That's enough of that. You guys figure out the rest. Airline lobby to rewrite carbon deal in light of coronavirus. I don't know. Coronaville. Coronaville. I'm on the next. Model warns of genetic modifications going awry in trees. Okay, you know what? I'll just read this headline here first. PARP inhibitor drugs can be tuned for better killing of tumor cells. That's from Science Daily. I'm gonna do this one now. This is the other story we're gonna really do. Model warns of genetic modifications going awry in trees from Futurity. Excerpt. A new model aims to predict genetic changes that have unintended consequences in trees that researchers genetically modify. It could pave the way for more efficient research in the fields of both genetic modification and forestry. Researchers want to genetically modify trees for a variety of applications, from biofuels to paper production. They also want to steer clear of modifications to one gene that result in unexpected changes to other genes. The research at issue focuses on lignin, a complex material found in trees that helps to give trees their structure. It is, in effect, what makes wood feel like wood. These models, however, do not account for cross-regulatory influences between the genes. So wait, you know what? Hold on. I'm sorry, I went too fast. I need to pause here because we need to enjoy. This is like watching a movie. You want to see the good part? You really want to see the good part before, because everybody inevitably, they make that fall, and then they crash and burn. And it's all hopeless, and then Deus Ex Machina. Wait, I suddenly remember when I was a child, I once had a football that was shaped just like this football, and the only place that this football ever came from was from Sam's Diner. She's at Sam's Diner. Something like that. Well, you still want to enjoy the ride, so I'm going to float and leave this hang here. The research at issue focuses on lignin, a complex material found in trees that helps to give these trees their structure. It is, in effect, what makes wood feel like wood. Wait! We've done it! Done it! Right here, Apex, ladies and gentlemen, we have created synthesized wood. We don't have to kill trees anymore! Wait, hold on. Dolores just called your boss, and she's making up some smack about you. And it looks like your boss is going to ask you to turn in your science badge. I will, you know what? I'll turn in my badge and my gun. Wait, why do you have a gun? You're a scientist. I always have a gun! It'd be like that. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done this to you. I apologize. Now here we go. Here's the crash and burn. These models, however, do not account for cross-regulatory influences between the genes. So, when we modify a targeted gene, the existing models do not accurately predict the changes we see in how non-targeted genes are being expressed. Not capturing these changes in expression of non-targeted genes hinders our ability to develop accurate gene modification strategies, increasing the possibility of unintended outcomes in lignin and wood traits.
Turns them into wood surds that come out of the ground shaped like Andrew Cuomo's head. Just his head, not his body, just his head, but not actually look like his head, just kind of shaped like in that kind of lumpa-pumpa, kind of the Cuomo pumpa-wumpa kind of, kind of roly-poly kind of vibe going on. These things are just kind of, I'm going too far with this. I'm sorry. I've stepped too far with the wood surds, but they can't be good. Wood surds will probably eat your children. That's the bottom line. That's where we're going with this. We're going down that. All right, let's highlight this. I should have highlighted I should do that one little part at a time and raise it up so you can see it. How did I do that? This model could be incorporated into larger multi-scale models, providing a computational tool for exploring new approaches to genetically modifying tree species to improve lignin traits for use in a variety of industry sectors. In other words, by changing one gene, researchers can accidentally mess things up with the other genes, creating trees that aren't what they want, creating wood surds that turn into Cuomo-shaped head thingies. Not heads, just Cuomo-shaped things. Cuomo head-shaped things. Cuomo head-shaped things called wood surds that just roll around, and they're constantly going back and forth with, "You're doing a great job, I'm going to sue you." Like that. Cuomo heads like Woodzards. That's what happens when you mess with Mother Nature. It unleashes a horde of Woodzards that look vaguely. You don't ever make the connection until years later. That's the thing. It devastates the land. 20% of humanity survived, but eventually we beat the Woodzards, and only like maybe 10, 15 years later, when the truth can come out, when finally the truth gets to come out because some brave whistleblower finally releases the data, we learn that, holy moly, that's what it is. It looked like Andrew Cuomo. Well, just his head. And not really, but sort of. But yeah, and everybody will get it, and everybody will know. And if they had known at the time, it could have saved a lot of lives. But nope, nobody listened. And with that, we're going to end. I didn't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I'm not going to that. And with that, we will end this segment. That means that this is the penultimate segment for the day on the Action Batsa YouTube channel. But we have one more segment coming up at 9 p.m., and that is the Dialectical. And the title for the Dialectical is, brace yourselves, a Coronaville Jubilee. How to burn off the gold dust from the mountaintop retreats. And there's a mountaintop retreat! Because that's what you do. That's how you roll. That's how you roll. Well, anyway, I'll see you at 9 on YouTube. And if you're watching on dlive.tv/Freako Live, then you'll keep seeing me as you are. And I'm going to say something. I'll probably do another magic trick like I did in the last segment. I'll do that. Whew! All right. I can't believe I got my penultimate segment done. I only got one segment left. What kind of time am I making here? Come on, what kind of time am I making? Time is good. Time is good. If we could keep things civil, I could get done in a timely manner and get things churning and burning. I did not. I forgot. I kind of forgot to do my sourcing. I begin to do sorting early in the morning. So that means if I don't do the sorting early in the morning, well, I have to go out and get some things and then sort. But I got a bunch of stuff already. I haven't sorted it, though. And usually I start sorting in the morning. I also gather some more stuff in addition to anyway, I'm behind on that. So when I'm done with the show, I'll probably have a longer time sorting. I probably won't get done writing the last thing until probably like 10 o'clock tonight. So if you go back to Freako.com, as I start creating the new content that'll be used for tomorrow's show, it'll appear there somewhere between roughly about 4-ish, 5-ish p.m. to roughly, usually about 8 or 9 usually is the latest, but sometimes it can be as late as 10. Sometimes later, because sometimes I write essays that are I don't know. I don't have any restrictions on me during this period of time, so I produce whatever I produce. If it's long, it's long. If it's short, it's short. And that's how I roll right now. That's how this show rolls. You don't know where you're going. You don't know what you're doing. It's what everybody wants. Total instability in the time of Coronaville. That's what I offer. Good marketing decision, buddy. Who are the ad wizards who came up with this? I'm actually an ad wizard. I think I demonstrated that because I quoted figures that made it sound like I know what I'm talking about when it came to ads and budgets and 30% losses, 38 billion and 760,000 human beings, 50,000 a year, kind of, that kind of. Yeah, y'all know what I'm talking about? You got that? All right. Well, I thank you all for your time. It's been lovely talking to you, but we're not done. We're getting ready for this last segment. Got to do the last segment, folks. If we don't do the last segment, we wouldn't have done the last segment. And if I make it through this show, this will be the 6th day that I have gone without freaking out. And I think, well, you know what? I'll wait. I'll wait till the end of this recording. I'm getting ready to record the last segment for the YouTube audience that doesn't watch the live streams. Boo on you. Boo. Although I do appreciate if you do watch it on YouTube, the excerpts on YouTube. And you can find all the excerpts on Freako.com. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Dialectical for Freako Talks the News on Tuesday, April 14th, 2020. For this segment, we're going to be talking about A Coronaville Jubilee. How to burn off the gold dust from the mountaintop retreats. You know what? I don't want this music with this. I want a different music with this. Let me figure it out. What can I use? You know what? I'll just use... Yes, I am going to just have to use... I'll use this. There we go. A Coronaville Jubilee. How to burn off the gold dust from the mountaintop retreats. I get this entry from Wikipedia on the Jubilee tradition in the Old Testament, and it is essentially correct based on my understanding of Scripture. The Jubilee, Hebrew, Yobel, Yiddish, Yovel, I don't know how to pronounce that, is the year at the end of 7 cycles of Shemitah, sabbatical years, and, according to biblical regulations, had a special impact on the ownership and management of land in the land of Israel. According to the book of Leviticus, Hebrew slaves and prisoners would be freed, debts would be forgiven, and the mercies of God would be particularly manifest. Jubilee works out to be about every 50 years, which in many ways is still, for most men who live that long, and it's important in the context of when Jubilee occurred. Not necessarily as important as it is now. It would be more important for men and women and days and all of them. But then, the focus on the men was, I think, warrant looking into, even metaphorically. So Jubilee works out to be about every 4 years, which in many ways is still, for most men who live that long and remain reasonably healthy, the time when the fruit of their work yields multiplying results. This last part, this is Frico's interpretation of data, not a biblical truth, such as we can understand truth. It's one of the reasons why I did my little warning label. Remember, I'm just a dude talking. It is at the height of our, but I am a really awesome dude, like incredibly good looking, smart, charismatic, funny, kind of man that you want your daughter to marry, but I'm already married, so you hold your head in shame. Like that kind of man. I'm that guy, but I'm not bragging. It is at the height of our manly powers, such as that is, for we men, that God commands for that wealth to be dissolved, unless that wealth is not based on the debt of others. An interesting prohibition, which I'll get into after the starting point of today's article, this news excerpt. This is a little longer dialectical, so I'll try to talk less in between the stuff. Cancel the debt from Charity Today. Cancel the debt to fight coronavirus and save lives, urges Christian Aid. The International Development Charity has launched a Cancel the Debt campaign calling on the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, to broker a debt relief deal. The call comes ahead of the International Monetary Fund spring meeting this week to discuss the details of a Coronaville global rescue package. Poor and vulnerable communities in developing countries are less able to cope with the virus, with 40% of the world's population unable to access soap and water, and millions living in crowded and precarious situations. And I'll skip through this one section here. We are launching this campaign as the International Monetary Fund, which hold vast amounts of developing country debt, hold their spring meeting. By dropping the debt, poorer nations could spend money on their own fight against COVID-19, helping to save millions of lives. And yeah. So what do you guys think of that? The whole idea, just forgive debt. Jubilee. Well, this special interest group is utilizing a Christian vehicle of power. Let me read it the way I wrote it. I tried to correct myself. And I was right first time. This special interest group, utilizing a Christian vehicle of power, is appealing to the spirit of Jubilee, which is what I'm here to discuss. So let's read this little section here. I don't know if I'll read all of these. I'm just going to read over some key parts, but we're pulling from Leviticus 25, 8 through 13. You shall count 7 weeks of years 7 times a year, so that the time of the 7 weeks of years shall give you 49 years. Then you shall sound the loud trumpet of the 10th day of the 7th month. On the day of atonement you shall sign the trumpet throughout all your land, and you shall consecrate the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout the land to all its inhabitants. All its inhabitants. Didn't differentiate whoever's living in the land. It shall be a jubilee for you when each of you shall return to his property, and each of you shall return to his clan. And I won't read the rest of this. Well, this is what Jubilee is in terms of chronology. 49 years of toil, of gathering resources, concentrating power at the perpetual cost of others, and on the 50th year the debts are erased, the properties restored, the concentration of resources that perpetually diminish others is erased. Not only that, but even the animals are given respite, space to not be consumed, rest, the shutting down of the pursuit of the more. So Leviticus 25:13 through 17. And again, I'm not going to read. I might read all of this. I'm not sure. We'll see. In the year of Jubilee, each of you shall return to his property. And if you make a sale to your neighbor or buy from your neighbor, you shall not wrong another. I'm going to get down here too. Okay. You shall pay your neighbor according to the number of years after the Jubilee, and he shall sell to you according to the number of years for crops. That's because when you buy the land from someone, you can't continue to own it. You can only buy the land until the year of Jubilee. Then it returns back to its origins. It stays with the clans. It stays with the families that were given the land. In this case, their vehicle of power is God gave the tribes and the clans like specific areas. This is your area. This is so very, very specific. Anyway. If the years are many, you shall increase the price, and if the years are few, you shall reduce the price, for it is the number of the crops that he is selling you. That's really, he's selling you time on that. You shall not wrong one another, but you shall fear your Lord. Well, I need to read that for my non-Christian friends. I love that line, but I don't need to read it for my non-Christian friends, because they're not here for that. Here you see how a Jubilee society would develop methods of selling things that might be quickly redeemed back to the one who sold it, like land that cannot be owned in perpetuity, which is sort of literally what follows in these verses. In Leviticus 25:23-34, the land shall not be sold in perpetuity, for the land is mine. For you are strangers and sojourners with me. And in all the country you possess, you shall allow a redemption of the land. Now this is really important for me. Sojourners, the idea of the sojourner is you are not there fundamentally to build castles. You build tents, metaphorically, but literally in this time. This was a tent community, a sojourn community at the time of Leviticus' historical narrative. For Christians, the sojourner is what we allegedly are. A sojourn community. Well, hold on. For Christians, the sojourner is what we allegedly are, though you'd find more castles among Christians in America than tents. Sojourners. We are not connected or owned by the constructs of those who build permanent empires in the here and now. We are sojourners. We pitch tents. We make ourselves self-stewards, not bound to the circumstances of those who depend on the castles for food and shelter and protection and hope. And you need not be a Christian to have a sojourner's heart. As a matter of fact, I know more non-Christian folks that have sojourner's hearts than I do Christian friends, sadly. Leviticus 25:23-34. Well, actually, this is just 35. I have these marked wrong. I have to correct those, but whatever. You can see what the verses are. This is 35 through 38. If your brother becomes poor and cannot maintain himself with you, you shall support him as though he were a stranger and a sojourner, and he shall live with you. Take no interest from him or profit, but fear your God that your brother may live beside you. You shall not lend him your money at interest, nor give him your food for profit. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt to give you the land of Canaan and to be your God. By the way, this is the ESV, the English Standard Version. Capital. the use of currency to claim ownership of percentages of enterprises designed to create products, services at profit. But the story of capital doesn't end there. And I believe this really goes to the heart of the type of profit that you could say that the God in this narrative is talking about. I call him my God. But the story of the capital doesn't end there. It goes far beyond the initial investment. It expects a return, not just in the investment, but profit. Often the capital gains profit in perpetuity, so long as there is profit and the investment in its current valuation is not reconverted to currency. So capital can create layers and layers of legacy investments in major corporations that have minimal competition that allows generations of families to sustain the mountaintop retreats of the world with a fully functioning staff meeting every whimsical need under the sun that such humans could ever imagine. Capital that perpetually eats into the cost of creation, the cost of production, the cost of sharing, is a cancer that assaults the most vulnerable of all among us. The person that God, again and again, used as his ultimate test for the justice of a land. How do you treat the sojourner? The ones in the tents, the ones outside the castle walls. Capital that perpetually consumes the cost of exchange also raises the cost of losing its stake and the prize for others to take it, making all factions more willing to act with lethality in response to the other. And we're witnessing it now. We've been witnessing it. Coronaville showed the brutal cost of this concentration of isolated and insulated power by the very few who all go to the same mountainside retreats, peeking at each other through telescopes on their balconies in their protected valleys off the beaten path. There will be no Jubilee, my friends, you can be sure of this, but whether they, whoever they is, want it or not, a Jubilee is coming, and it's coming from what we already have, our steward empowering tech. One need not be a Christian to appreciate the advantage to we the poors, the non-citadelians, in having a Jubilee-type mindset prevail across the land, because I tell you the truth, if you are not inside that gated community, metaphorical and otherwise, you are a sojourner. So many of us that so quickly turn on the sojourners in our land, the non-citizens without license to be here. You're sojourners too. You have more in common with these poor folks than you do with the people that you're actually protecting. I don't know how I could ever get people to see that, but that would be my will. All right. Freako doesn't freak out. It is some sort of poetical that, at least for America and for many other nation states, the choice to respond to Coronaville is not to forgive debt, but write low interest loans that might offer forgiveness if you follow some very specific rules, some of which might be practical, but some of which might be a special interest code casually added as a favor to a powerful lobbyist, but a regulation that might make the whole loan not worth your time in the first place, or maybe it puts you in the position where you're so desperate that the conditions will mean that you're not even going to be able to run the business the way that you want to run the business. But you do it anyway because you have people and you don't want to see them lose your job, so you take the hit and you eat it. And now they've inserted some sort of morality cop into your business, which raises the cost of everything. And basically it means instead of going bankrupt now, you go bankrupt 2 years from now. But in the process, you would have sold your soul to do it. That's a lot of things that are going to happen to a lot of businesses through any time these never mind it's far worse even when it comes to the local and the state levels, those governments are out of control. Those governments are really just, I don't even know what kind of deals they're going to make with businesses that they're going to offer any kind of economic reward for. I have no idea how they're going to take advantage of the opportunity to inject themselves. Well, we got a lot of fallen revenue from all of the lost traffic tickets, so we got to figure out what can we write into this to make sure that in return, like, we're perpetually like getting some skin off the game. That's what it's all about. We want to put yourself in a position where without thinking, while you're sleeping, your money is working for you. That's the American dream. While you're sleeping, your money is working for you. And if it works for you really, really well, you know, $38 billion, which could give 760,000 people, it could give them a salary for the next year. I'd rather them have a salary for 1 year than any one human being to have $38 billion. I'm not going to lie to you. Not going to lie to you. Because I think in the course of them having that salary for 1 year, just give them 50,000. In the course of that, they're going to create all kinds of stuff that they're going to have jobs that's making money afterwards. Probably. I'm just saying, probably, because they have to. And when they're able to, they will. The problem is we're not able to because we have all these artificial constraints on us, not the least of which is IP. Got to get that IP in there, preach that IP. So this has largely been the American response. Now, for Christians, all that fits neatly into that. Wait, hold on, I missed some sort of... Okay, here we go. It is some sort of poetical that, at least for some Americans, at least for America and for many other nation states, the choice to respond to Coronaville, that's right, I read this, I got this done. This has largely been an American response, the American response. Now, for Christians, all this fits neatly into that Jubilee narrative. They could even read in the circumstance of the arrival of Coronaville at this debt-ridden, capital-controlling partner history that we are met with such a challenge. Yeah. They have it's difficult for them not to read into all kinds of Christian narratives and to assume surely this is a work of God. And hey, maybe it is, but I don't pretend to know the mind of God, and I do know that plagues come and go, and I'd waste my time conjecturing where God was deliberately or not deliberately moving, or what that even means, and that rabbit hole has only just begun. And I went down that rabbit hole, and like almost every rabbit hole I ever went down, I came back with and when I came back with my thought about the level of discipline that I would have to apply to fully own any degree of certainty as far as settling matters like that. Just theologically, I don't have the time. No. What I can understand is the nature of burden, the nature of grander and grander prizes and higher potential losses. Where burden is high, life is being physically ground to premature dust by the weight of that load. Debt kills. Where the prize is high, the commitment to truth becomes a liability to the one who might possibly want such a prize in the first place. A prize like this, $38 billion. $38 billion. I want to be worth $38 billion. I want to have more power than 760,000 human beings. More real, like I can change the world around me power. I can affect change more than those 760,000 people. If you want that kind of power, then I can assure you, you're going to have to rely on lying to sustain your rise to that level, because nobody gets to that level without having to lie their way to the top. Where the prize is high, right, the commitment to truth becomes a liability. And this Jubilee thing, it burns off the gold dust. That's what we're seeing. When the cost of potential loss is high, the winners are more incentivized to use deception, fraud, violence to assure their prize is sustained for all their breathing moments here on earth. Why did all the 49ers go out to California? Why? Because there was a prize. And since it was a big prize, a lot of people went out. And since it was a really big prize, there was a lot of killings. There was a lot of violence. A lot of stuff happened out there in the 49er world because there was a big old prize. And there was little consequence to the ones who could pull off the use of whatever deception they could pull off, so long as they had the protection of the state, as in individuals that had this state authority that were willing to be on their side when push came to shove. And that's our world, folks. That is our world. And it need not be that way. Like I said, it need not be that way. There are so many opportunities out there to turn all this into pure gold, man. Pure gold. Pure gold that every individual has. The idea that you could have these AIs that are yours. You get the nascent AI with no inputs, and you get the power to influence what types of AIs you'll have, and you raise them up, and they grow with you, they learn with you, they learn from, through, with you, and it's a usufructory relationship. It's a cup of coffee in a way, like coffee does for many of us, except on massive steroids. So with that, I think that's the end of this segment, and that means that this is also the end of the show. So for the YouTube audience, at least, this is the last segment of the day. Don't forget to tip your Frico at frico.com/tips. Start just tip, and you know what? I want to make sure it's either way. Yeah, I think I'll do that. Either it tips or tip. If it's not that, it will be that. And you can click on the link to send me money, because you want to send me money, because why not? You get PayPal me all of your money, all of it. No, not all of it. I don't want any of it. I don't want any of your money. I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. Totally. Send me money. Seriously. All right. This is the last segment for the day. Join us tomorrow. And I don't know what I'll even cover, but we will have our first show will be the headline show at 4 o'clock. And we'll end, as we do with this one, we'll end with a dialectical at 9 p.m. So have yourself a good night if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're watching on the real area, the live streamers, the dedicated human beings that put their time and effort and life and everything into my hands, boldly, dramatically, with which I will say with much heartfelt love. I could see in the comments, a lot of comments today. There's no comments because there's nobody watching. But a lot of comments today. A lot of really positive feedback. A lot of folks saying this is probably the best show that they've seen since Game of Thrones was still good. That's a weird one that I get, and I don't get why you would say that, because this isn't even a science fiction show or a fantasy or anything show. This is real life. Although I guess if you're watching this in 2012, and I do have some listeners from 2012 right now. They've commented. I made that up. I totally made that up. They're a little bit. I say that they doubt the veracity of the statements that I've been making regarding these articles. They're saying these articles are made up. This is the Onion. They think this is all just the Onion, but I'm assuring them it's not. And all of you listening right here in 2020 in current time, if you're over the age of 90, and I do try to warn people to keep the children away. If you're under the age of 90, you're still a child. So if you are under the age of 90 and you wandered into this, I apologize. Children, it's okay. Just go back to bed. Everything's going to be fine. Mommy and Daddy will tuck you in later and put the lollipop. Never mind. Don't say that. Don't. I really struggled with finishing the joke. And then I said, no, you will not do this. Because you know why you won't do this? Because you're a decent human being. And because I'm a decent human being, I'm going to end this show. I'm going to end this show right now. I thank you all for joining me. We'll see you tomorrow on dlive.tv/frico. Live, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time until, I guess, today. We went about 2 hours. So we went 2 hours today. So And now we sign you off and we bid you adieu.
Thank you for engaging with this material presented. As usual, remember your views, your suppositions do not make you subhuman, nor do they permit you to subhumanize others. No humans were harmed in the making of the show, and we extend no wish of harm in anyone who hasn't directly harmed or threatened to harm others first, no matter how reprehensible we find your views.
We will see you in the next Frico Talks, where Frico attempts to talk about news without freaking out.